Hello again, and welcome to another video. This one's a little different. I just kind of wanted to talk about my jazz journey, really. I've been collecting jazz records properly for about the last 12 years. I think 2010 is when I properly started. Before that, I'd only really ever heard a little bit of jazz. And really that was down to the records my dad owned. And he had these Jacques Lussier Plays Bach LPs, which I remember him playing in the 70s on his, God, what would it have been? They didn't have a separate turntable, but he had like a console system, which kind of comprised a turntable and tape player and tuner and amp all built into one. And I remember really liking these. It's a simple trio: the French pianist Jacques Lussier, Christian Carros on drums, and Pierre Michelot on bass. And in the liner notes, Jacques Lussier talks about how Bach, of all the classical composers, was probably the one most easily able to translate into jazz. I remember this was really accessible, and I really liked, and I liked classical music anyway at that time. I used to listen to a lot of classical music, kind of greatest hits, on my little portable tape player, and that's what I would listen to. So you'd get things like, a few minutes of Beethoven's Fifth and a few minutes of Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, and I remember there was a bit of Bach on there, probably Toccata and Fugue, and I remember my dad playing these, and then in the 80s, when I had a turntable of my own, I'd kind of borrow these and I'd play it because it was really, really cool to listen to. I really enjoyed these. And he also owned a couple of Oscar Peterson records. These two are actually from his collection. And so he had these two, which are from the series. Now, I didn't know at the time that there was a series called Exclusively for My Friends. I could see that was volume 3, and I knew that was volume 4. And I thought, well, I'll never be able to find volumes 1 and 2, because this was before the time of eBay, when looking for records was actually made an awful lot simpler. And then when eBay came along, I remember I found volumes 1 and 2, and I didn't realize actually there was volumes 5 and 6 as well. Yeah, these were really good, and these were recorded, actually very good recordings. They were recorded at the home of the head of MPS Records in Germany, whose name escapes me. I think it was Hans Brunner Schwer, and very, very intimate recordings, recorded live in front of a few of his close friends. And so that kind of started, and I would play those. And back then I was more into new wave and rock and pop, but around 2010, the BBC Music magazine produced this 100 Jazz Legends magazine, and I remember getting this, and it just kind of turned me on to the whole concept of maybe I should collect a few jazz records, because these sound really interesting. It's a great picture of Louis Armstrong, isn't it? So you've got 100 jazz legends here: Louis Armstrong, Chet Baker, Ian Bellamy, Count Basie. The list goes on. And I kind of use this as a almost like a reference guide, really, as to the records that I should buy. And I remember back in 2010, I was on eBay, and I found a copy of Kenny Burrell's Midnight Blue, which turned out to be my very first kind of proper jazz purchase of my own. So I'd had these jazz records that my dad owned, and I remember I bought Midnight Blue, and this is the Cadre Rouge version, which is it's a digital remaster, French digital remaster, which is okay. It sounds all right. It's not up there with audiophile recordings, but it's not bad. And I can't remember how much I paid for that, but it really switched me on to Kenny Burrell, who's one of my favourite jazz artists. And I remember buying the Cadre Rouge version of Something Else, and it was Something Else which really that really got me into basically gave me the bug for collecting jazz records, because this isn't the Cadre Rouge version. This is the Analog Productions double 45. But wow, what a lineup that is! Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, and Art Blakey. What an album! So that's it. All started from there, really. And then I think soon after that, I bought the Analog Productions version of Moanin' by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, which kind of introduced me to Lee Morgan, and I've since bought quite a few Lee Morgan LPs, but they were kind of the trio of jazz records that, you know, the holy trinity for me. I mean, Miles Davis's Kind of Blue is up there as well, but everyone talks about that one, so I thought I'd miss that miss that one out in this particular instance. But if I was to pick three jazz albums that really switched me onto jazz in a big way, it was these three. So yeah, so it's come a long way. I've now got about 160 odd jazz albums, mostly Blue Note, a lot of Tone Poets and a lot of Blue Note classics, also quite a few Verve, and you know, that collection keeps building and building and building. And it's probably, you know, it soon will be rivaling my rock and pop collection probably. It's got a bit of a way to go before it gets there. So yeah, that's really how it all started, and you know, that's I just wanted to share that really. So I hope that's of interest. If you haven't checked out these, if you haven't heard these, Jacques Lussier Plays Bach, do give them a listen, because they're really good, really accessible, and just a great listen. And particularly if you like Bach, obviously. And I mean, I would recommend anyone who hasn't already listened to Oscar Peterson to listen to some of his stuff, because I mean, I've never heard a pianist who could do what he does on the piano. So there you have it. Anyway, hope you liked the video. Do remember to leave a like, and you know, if this kind of content is the kind of content you enjoy, do remember to subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and keep spinning those records.